My name is Kris Hair. I'm a AFA certified farrier with North Texas Equine. My wife, Dr. Natalie, is a chiropractor. I've been a farrier for about a little over 20 years now. What we can talk about is the benefits of certain shoes and the things that are detrimental to certain types of shoes that you put on barrel horses. I always tell my clients that your horse is only as strong as his weakest link. So a lot of times when you add grip or you add slip or you do certain things, you affect things further up the leg. It's not just in the foot. You know, I hear a lot of people say, my horse needs grip, my horse needs grip, my horse needs grip. And that's great. I agree with that to an extent, but when does grip become leverage and affect something further up the leg? The hocks, the stifles, the SIs, things in the front end, you know. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So I actually built some shoes today that kind of address each of those needs. You know, the front end of a horse, I kind of feel like you're a little more forgiving because of the way a horse moves. What I feel like happens in a lot of barrel horses and a lot of misconception is that back feet work the same as front feet, and that's not entirely true. But when a horse on the front end, he'll put his foot down, he'll break over or leave the ground, the foot comes away. When you get into the back end of horses, that changes a little bit because the physical makeup of a horse is different in the back end. You can almost think of it as like your leg, where your heel area would be the horse's hock and your knees are their stifles, basically. So when a horse comes into the ground on the back end, they don't come in heel first and land flat. They're almost in a slide when they put their feet down, especially coming into a barrel, into your first barrel. So what happens is that horse's foot leaves the ground and then they almost just pick it straight up. If you ever slow it down and watch, slides in, picks up, leaves the ground. A lot of horses, I tell people, you know, it's really different. A lot of horses will slide into a barrel. Some horses will just flat run around a barrel. So my opinion is, when you talk about the different dynamics and the way different horses run, you know, every horse is built different. So I can't tell you, you know, every horse needs to be barefoot on the back end, or every horse needs a rim shoe on the back end, because every single horse is different. And you really want to address what best fits your horse. And I think that's where you have a conversation with your farrier and talk about the way your horse works. Maybe show them a video. Maybe they can get a better understanding if you're having some soreness issues. There's a lot of things. I've got 3 different shoes here that are kind of my go-tos for a barrel horse. So I've got a plain stamp shoe, which basically has no fullering. It's a 5/16 by 3/4 piece of bar stock that I've punched holes in, and that's all it is. What I'm going to use that on is a horse that really doesn't leave the ground hard on the back end, but I notice they really slide around the barrel. So what that does is it enables them to put their feet wherever they feel like and really work that slide in. I use these a lot also on horses that are hock sore, because if you ever watch a hock sore horse move, the horse will set his foot down and he'll tend to want to twist it. Well, when you put fullering in a shoe, or you put any kind of rim in a shoe on a horse that twists its foot, you've added grip or you've added load. So now that load goes further up the leg and affects the way that horse can move his foot back and forth. So these, I use a lot of these, and I've gone to using a lot of them on barrel horses and really helped out with some hock and stifles soreness. Another shoe I use with a horse that really likes to slide in but leaves the ground hard is, this is a shoe I build. It's a 3/4 inch by 5/16. I built them into 7/8 as well, 7/8 wide, so it gives them a little more stock under the foot. But they call it a rodeo hind. So you've got grip in the toe, but you leave the back end flat. So what it allows them to do, allows them to slide in, but it gives them just a little more purchase and a little more grip coming out of the hole. The other option is a full rim shoe. This is a piece of concave bar stock that I've bent. I believe it's a 5/16 by 3/4. I don't use a lot of heavier stock just because the quarter horse world, you don't need it. These were made popular. The concave bar stock was made popular with eventers and hunter jumpers where they're out in the grass and really need a lot of grip. So this is a ton of grip into a shoe, but you can see how it's all the way back into the heel of the foot. So when a horse is sliding in, all that's grip, and they're just going to stop. So when a horse is really jamming into a barrel like that, it goes straight into their hocks, straight into their stifles, you know, up into their SIs, and you know, Natalie says she always knows when her horse has a rimmed shoe on the back because they're always back sore, you know, 90% of the time. You know, I think there's a lot of horses, especially when you get into the level of barrel racing these days, you know, it's not what it was even 10 years ago, but when hundredths of a seconds count, you know, I think this is probably a shoe that, you know, I know it's a shoe that a lot of the upper end people are using. I don't know that it's necessary for a horse running in the 5D, but horses that are getting regular maintenance and getting taken care of, it's probably a pretty good option when you're talking about hundredths of a second in a 1D. So what you've also got to keep in mind is I feel like a lot of times made up and a lot of times lost turn in a barrel. So, you know, this rim shoe is probably great if you're running in a straight line in a 100-yard dash because you've got your thrust at the beginning and then you're wide open, but you've got 3 turns to make in a barrel pin. And, you know, if you're not looking at how you're turning these barrels and the way you're circling these barrels, and not only in the way your horse is performing and sliding in, but the way you're riding your horse, you know, I think that's where your time's lost. So I like to be critical when I'm looking at horses and trying to figure out what's wrong and why they're sore. I'm not necessarily looking at their straightaways, but I'm looking at the ways they wrap a barrel and ways to improve how they're flowing through that barrel turn, not just in the straightaway.